Hello, and welcome to the Dungeon. I'm your host Rob, and in today's video we're going to be looking at the path of the Totem Barbarian. Now, I did a video on the Barbarian earlier with a couple of my friends who both played Barbarians to high level, and basically we just sat around and taught Barbarians. But one of them had played a path of the Berserker, the other one had played the Zealot, and so we never really discussed the path of the Totem Barbarian. And one of the things I found interesting in that discussion is that both of them expressed the idea that Barbarians kind of just became repetitive and boring for them after a while, and that most of their fun came from role-playing their characters and being kind of ridiculous, rather than just through like the fun of the game and the character itself. And I think that possibly it's because most of the other Barbarians are just so focused on combat that you really have nothing else outside of that you ever really do. And I think that's one place where the path of the Totem Barbarian can be a little more versatile. You can gain things like a couple ritual spells, and sure, they're not necessarily game breaking or anything like that, but it gives you something outside of combat you can do, and a lot of it can be fun roleplay type stuff. Also, you can be a pretty decent scout if you want to say the eagle or something like that. Then you can be, kind of sneaky, stealthy, scouting ahead type guy, and you can start to fulfill a lot more than just my turn, roll some dice, hit stuff, roll again, hit more stuff. So I think that for someone looking to play a different type of barbarian who still wants to be really great in combat, but maybe wants a bit of stuff outside of that as well, I think this kind of path may appeal to people more. Also, there's, I think, a lot of interesting roleplay potential with the kind of character who's guided by all these animal spirits and communes with them and draws the strength from nature and whatnot, right? I think that makes an interesting idea for a character, and it can be fun to roleplay. So we're not going to go through all the barbarian abilities that are common to everything. We're just going to take a look at the specific path and its abilities. So level 3, you gain Spirit Seeker. You can cast Beast Sense and Speak with Animals, both as rituals. So I don't think this is a particularly powerful ability, but I do quite like it, because something like Speak with Animals, for example, when you need Speak with Animals, you kind of really need it. It's very, very handy. But it's not something you need all the time, and a lot of other players may just not take it. I mean, sure, if you have a druid in your party or maybe a ranger, then that kind of role might be filled. But outside of that, most people aren't going to take those kind of spells. And so if you don't have a druid or a ranger, then you can kind of be that guy who's like, hey, I've got Beast Sense, I've got Speak with Animals, do this ritual, and it can be a nice way to find out certain information, or even there's lore in different areas, and I find it pretty good. You're also going to get to choose Totem Spirit level 3. They list 3 in the book, but I've seen people who try to homebrew their own. So if you're interested in going outside of just those 3, talk to your dungeon master. Maybe you can make your own. You could be the path of the tiger or walrus or whatever, path of the penguin. That could be ridiculous, but also fun maybe. So talk to your DM. Maybe you guys can work something out. So obviously we can't cover every homebrew possibility out there. That'll be between you and your dungeon master to figure out. But 3 in the books are pretty good. You got the bear, the eagle, and the wolf, and they kind of break down to 3 different roles in a way too. So we'll talk about that at the end. But bear, while raging, you take half damage from everything except for psychic damage, and this ability is amazing. Honestly, barbarians are already incredible at that tank type role, just absorbing tons of damage because when raging you're taking half damage from everything. Combined with a large hit point pool, this is pretty good. And the bear does it even better than the rest, because now you're taking half damage from things like fireballs and whatnot, and then you still got a saving throw for quarter damage. Eagle, while raging, you can dash as a bonus action, and enemies have disadvantage on opportunity attacks to hit you. Eagle seems to focus a lot more on mobility, and I think it'd be a good choice for maybe a dex-based barbarian, which, by the way, is completely viable. Dex-based barbarians are great, but I do kind of have a couple problems with this ability. Number one, getting dash as a bonus action is amazing, so I'm not knocking that at all. That ability is insane. but enemies having disadvantage on opportunity attacks, you're probably going to be attacking recklessly anyways, so now they're just attacking you normally, and I just kind of feel like I could be just taking half damage from everything instead, you know? I feel like that's just going to be better. So I don't know that it's as good as the bear, but I mean, it's not awful. If you want to be very mobile and darting around through combat a lot and you expect to be giving up a lot of opportunity attacks, then Eagle is a solid choice, I think. But it is a lot more circumstantial. So, you know, bear that in mind. Wolf, you get pack tactics, and while raging, all allies within 5 feet of you get advantage on their attacks. So not only are you going to have an advantage on your attacks by attacking recklessly, now your allies get the advantage of attacking recklessly, but without giving up advantage, so they don't have the drawbacks. This ability is really good, but it also kind of depends on your group composition. So I've got a bit of a cold still. Obviously, the more melee guys you have in your party, the better. If your party is like, you know, you, a fighter, a paladin, and a war cleric, and then maybe you got a wizard in the back, a party like that is really going to benefit nicely from pack tactics. The more people you have trying to hit the target, and the more you can like clump up around the barbarian, the better. But considering that 5th edition is kind of balanced around a 4-man group as the standard, you might only have you or maybe one other melee guy, in which case you're not really gaining a big benefit from this, because you're only really sharing with like one other guy or maybe no other guys, in which case it's not so great. I see Wolf as being kind of like the team player trying to make their other melee guys, their melee brothers, better along with them. But you kind of need a bunch of melee brothers in order for that to work. At level 6, you get Aspect of the Beast. Bear has their max carrying capacity doubled. You also get advantage on strength checks to lift, pull, push, break, whatever. Basically everything except a carry, which you've already got double capacity. This is nice if you have a dungeon master who's a real stickler about encumbrance, but if you're using unarmored defense anyways, you're not wearing heavy armor, you might not be wearing any armor, you probably already have a really high strength. Like, I don't know that this ability is necessarily that great, but you know, advantage to break stuff is always nice when you're a barbarian, so there's nothing wrong with that. You know, combined with eventually barbarians get an ability where if you try to break something and you make your strength roll and it's less than your strength, then you just get your strength rating. So I mean, it becomes pretty ridiculous after a while, but it's still okay. I wouldn't say it's a great ability, but it's, you know, having advantage to bend and push and move stuff is pretty decent. That kind of stuff will happen a lot in your adventure career. Eagle, you gain the ability to see up to 1 mile away in the distance, and you do not have disadvantage on perception checks due to dim light. This is really nice for somebody who wants to perform like a scouting type role, which barbarians can be very suited for. But the disadvantage on perception checks is really only going to apply if you're a race that doesn't already have dark vision. The 1 mile viewing distance is pretty handy again, especially for a scout. But a lot of times spells can fill that role, so it's one that I like it, but I wouldn't say that it's great. It's kind of, you know, it's just kind of there. Wolf, you can move stealthily while traveling at normal pace. Again, this is one that sounds like it's going to be pretty good, but really I find if we're trying to be stealthy, we probably don't care about how long something takes us, right? Like, you're not trying to do a speed run while sneaking into the enemy base. You're just trying to get in and be safe. That's the priority. And if you're in a large group and you're traveling at normal speed sneaky, but everybody else has to move at half speed, it doesn't really help you that much unless you're like scouting ahead. So again, it has circumstances where it could be okay. And you know, maybe you're on the clock and your dungeon master is kind of a stickler for time, and you know, you want to scout ahead, but now you're worried about time constraints. I mean, there are situations where it's okay, but overall, I just don't think it's that great. Level 10, Spirit Walker, you can use Commune with Nature as a ritual. And I really like this ability a lot. I find that commune spells are really awesome. but they're very underused, I find, and I don't really know why. In fact, divination spells in general, in most of the campaigns I'm in, seem to be underused. But the reason I like it is because it's a nice chance to learn information for the party and help you party out. But it's also nice, as somebody who does a lot of dungeon mastering, a lot of times you put thought and effort into like the lore, the background of a certain area or an object or whatever happened in this particular region. And then that stuff just never comes out in the game. And that's okay. But it's kind of nice to have a chance to show that stuff off. And if you have a player who wants to use community nature and learn about the area, that's a nice chance for you to kind of do a bit of role playing in that area and kind of, show off the background and the creativity that you put into this thing. So I kind of like that from a dungeon master perspective. It's nice from a player perspective, just to gain free information about an area. And, if you're stuck, you're not sure where you're supposed to go, that kind of thing can help steer you in the right direction. Or it can just be an excuse for the dungeon master to point you in the right way without him having to feel like I'm going to have to cheat and help the players out with information they don't deserve. And then all of a sudden the barbarians decide to do this, and you're like, thank you. Now, now you've kind of earned it. Level 14, Totemic Attunement. The bear, while raging, things have disadvantage to hit allies within 5 feet of you unless they can't see the bear or unless they're immune to frightened. Now, as you get higher level, 14 starting to count as pretty high level, a lot of things become immune to frightened, so it's not always great, and it only applies while raging, but it is a pretty amazing ability still, despite that. It just helps you to be more of that like tanky guy, where now if they hit you, you're taking half damage from basically everything. And if they don't attack you, now they have disadvantage to hit your allies. I mean, they're all taking way less damage. So I think it's an amazing ability, despite the limitations on it. You'll still, even at high levels, you'll fight tons of things that are not immune to frightened condition. So it remains a great ability. Eagle, this ability is kind of ridiculous. Basically, you gain fly speed for that round of combat, and then you have to land again at the end of the round. You can use your movement. So basically, you can just jump really high, is what it is. You're like the original Superman. You can't fly, you can only leap over tall buildings in a single bound. And that becomes you as a barbarian. I kind of have this image of like, Golden Axe and other like old school video games like that, where you could like super jump sometimes, but your character animations were terrible because of the technology back then. So your legs remained completely stiff and your body was completely straight. You just went. That's your barbarian. You just jump up, attack that dragon, and then land. However, despite being ridiculous, the ability is actually pretty awesome because it solves that problem that every barbarian has. What do I do if it's over my head? Now, sure, you could hurl javelins at it, but javelins suck, and we all know it. And anybody who's used javelins, you cry a little on the inside when you see the damage you did compared to what you would have been doing with your great axe. Or maybe you cry openly at the table and complain to everybody else, in which case it's even more embarrassing. You're a barbarian. Man up. Come on. But this solves that problem because now you can just jump up and hit the thing a bunch of times, and you're not losing anything, really, except for your dignity. Wolf, a bonus action while raging to knock down large or smaller creatures and just knock them prone with a melee attack. It does not require or allow a saving throw or anything else, so I kind of like that about it. If it's a large or smaller sized creature, you just hit it, you knock it prone, and now your allies just jump on it in a frenzy and beat the thing to death. However, this has the same problem that Pack Tactics had back at level 3. It really depends on you having a fairly melee heavy party. If your party is yourself, a sorcerer, a wizard, a warlock using nothing but agonizing blast all day, and a ranger, and he's using a bow, your party's not going to be happy with you knocking things prone, as they find that they're having disadvantage to hit everything. So again, it's going to kind of require that you have a melee focused heavy party. So if we look at the 3 different roles, I think it's pretty safe to say that the bear is kind of like your big, tough, tanky option. You take less damage from everything else. You also can give opponents disadvantage to hit your allies at a higher level, which is very nice. Eagle focuses more on mobility. You've got your stupid jump attack. You've got, just your ability to move in and out of combat and give disadvantage on opponents' opportunity attacks against you. It also has some nice scouting with the Eagle Eye feature. And then Wolf is kind of like the team player, where you're the playmaker trying to make everybody else better, or worse if they're all range guys. But that's kind of the basic breakdown of the three archetypes that they give us. And I like them all to different degrees. I think that, they all have different level ranges where they stand out. As much as I make fun of Eagle, the flyability at 14 is really, really great on a Barbarian. If you've ever been a melee-focused character who finds themselves fighting a dragon that's flying 40 feet over your head, just breathing fire down on the party, it can be really frustrating as an experience. So the fact that you could just jump up and attack it, or try to land on it, and maybe grapple with the thing, could be a lot of fun. So, and obviously Bear is just amazing. Bear's probably my favorite out of the three overall. And Wolf really dominates with the right party composition. So, as usual, I want to talk a little bit about feats and racial choices. We'll start with races. There's a bunch of obvious choices, of course. Things like Half-Orc and Barbarian are going to be great. Anything that's giving you lots of strength or con is going to be a solid choice. My buddy Jaden is playing a Dragonborn Barbarian in our current campaign. The charisma is not necessarily the greatest, but nice strength and resistance to another damage type, which is pretty good. If you're not playing a bear especially, it becomes better. And having a breath weapon is pretty nice on a Barbarian because it gives you a bit more versatility in combat. So that's been pretty handy. My buddy Troy played a Wood Elf Barbarian, and he focused a lot more on dex and strength in combination, and also mobility. So that was kind of nice as well. Combined with the Barbarian's passive move increase and the Wood Elf passive move increase, you become a very, very quick mobile guy. There's also a few unusual choices. If you use Vola's Guide to Monsters, I think things like Bugbear could be awesome with its extended range. I just picture a Bugbear Barbarian using a polearm for even more range, and that's actually a pretty horrifying combination when you think about it. If you took Polearm Mastery and Sentinel on that guy, it's just going to be ridiculous. But anyways, I also think that Halflings, believe it or not, can make some pretty decent Barbarians if you want to focus more on dexterity. And part of this is just because of the Halfling luck racial trait, where you get to re-roll all your ones. Because you're attacking with advantage, and because you have advantage on initiative checks at some point, you're going to get a lot more ones just by virtue of rolling a lot more dice. And the ability to re-roll all those extra ones, it just gives you so many more opportunities for great combat results. So I actually think that just like, this small feral barbarian who's raised by wolves or whatever, is just a hilarious idea. And I think it would probably be a ton of fun to play a character like that. Just a savage little 3-foot monster just, tearing things up. Just be hilarious to me. So I think that something like that could be a lot of fun, and would probably be great to role play. As always, variant humans are very strong, but just play whatever you want. I mean, whatever you think. I like to put stuff like this into my videos because there are people who want to min-max and really take advantage of different things. But there's a lot of people who don't really care. They're just like, well, I'm just going to play whatever race I want. And to you, I say, do that. Good attitude. But I like to put them in there anyways. For feats, obviously you got things like, I'm a big fan of Alert and Lucky. I don't know that Alert's quite as necessary on a Barbarian because you're already going to get advantage to initiative checks. But if you just really want to be, super fast guy, and I'm going to use my movement speed to get on top of enemy casters before they have a chance to do anything, because that's our defense against casters, then Alert with advantage is ridiculous. Yeah, Troy's Barbarian had that, and he was our mage killer. So, he just go flying in as fast as he could, attack almost first or second almost every combat, and just try to beat the guy down before he had a chance to do anything. And it worked pretty well, actually. I like the Mage Slayer feat on Barbarians a lot, Part of this is a thematic role-playing choice. I like Mage Slayer in general. It's a great feat. It's one I don't talk about very much, but it is a really solid feat. But I quite like it on a Barbarian. And like I said, part of that's because of role-playing. If I look at characters like Conan or other type of Barbarian characters, they have this like real fear of the supernatural usually. So the idea that they're going to be the mage killer just kind of makes perfect sense to me. And you look at most of Conan's really great villains, a lot of them were all mage types. So, I like that. Other ones, mobility to just add to your current, Barbarian's already getting increased movement speed, so why don't you just go all in on that and make it even better? Even better if you took, like, say, you can dash as a bonus action, then just having further and further movement speed just makes those kind of abilities even better, and just, stacking your passive movement on top of passive movement on top of passive movement on top of dashes. So I think that's pretty awesome. I want to mention durable. I think durable is an okay feat. I don't think it's great, but if you have an odd score constitution, then it can be very handy. Give yourself an even score, because it gives you a +1 to constitution. And when you spend hit dice, you can't recover an amount smaller than your con bonus. So if you have, a +4 or +5 to your con bonus, and you roll a 1 on your d12 embarrassingly, well, no, you get a 5 instead. So that's kind of nice. It becomes really good if you're planning on playing a campaign at high levels for quite some time, because at level 20, you're going to get your +4 strength and con, and it's going to raise your caps. So you could have 24 con, even higher if you find like stat books and stuff like that. But you could very realistically have 24 constitution at that point, in which case you can't recover less than 7 hit points per hit die, no matter what you roll at that point. So it could become really, really good on a Barbarian, where you're able to start taking advantage of bonuses like that. I don't think it's as strong as some of the others, but I thought I'd mention it anyways. Of course, it's hard to go wrong with Great Weapon Mastery. Attacking recklessly allows you to overcome that -5 hit penalty a lot more, and to really maximize the damage on your hits. I like Polearm Mastery, because it gives you a bonus action attack, and just gives you an extra chance to get in more damage. It doesn't stack with some of your other bonus action abilities like Raging, so you wouldn't be able to use them both in the same round, but you can Rage the first round, use your bonus action and all your subsequent attacks to make your butt end of the Polearm attack. So I think it's pretty strong there, especially if you combine it with things like Great Weapon Mastery. You can take both, and now you're just hitting stuff for basically an extra 30 damage per round. That starts to add up really fast. I also wanted to mention that I like things on Barbarians that kind of allow me to do things outside of that role. And so if you wanted to take something like a Ritual Spellcaster or something and kind of go into that role more, I think that there could be a role for that if you don't have somebody else in your party who can do that kind of thing. I think that a lot of times on a Barbarian, we tend to focus too much on the combat and ignore the rest of the game. But the truth is, you're already so good at combat, it's really not that big of a deal to use a feat or two for something that's going to add some more versatility to the character. The problem is that if you have like a wizard or someone in your party, he's probably going to be able to do that, and he's going to be able to do it better. Or you might have a warlock who takes Pact of the Tome, in which case he's going to have that role covered as well. So it's one that you definitely want to look at your party composition to see what else you have before you decide to do something like that. But I think that it has potential. So that's my main thoughts on the Totem Path Barbarian. I think that it's a decent class. I think that it has a lot more like team play that it potentially have. Some of the other Barbarian paths are more like, you just want to be the man and carry the action. Whereas I think this one allows you to be more of the playmaker, the facilitator, and kind of allow you to like share some of the limelight with other people. Imagine how much that champion fighter in your party is going to love your pack tactics being given to him every combat. And he's just critting away like a crit machine. Or that paladin, who just wants to like land a bunch of giant smite crits. And now you're giving him advantage on all his attacks. So I think that kind of stuff could be really awesome. I think barbarians can be a lot of fun to play. I do understand that idea that they are kind of limited to just combat, and that's why I kind of wanted to talk about some of the other aspects and roles that they can fill aside in this video. If you really wanted to get creative, you could start doing a lot of things outside of combat as well. But, you know, that wasn't really the entire focus of this video. I just wanted to talk about the path in general. So anyways, if you have any comments and suggestions or anything like that, please leave them in the comment section. I promise to read every comment. And feel free to like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff. And I'll see you next time in the dungeon. Okay, bye.